Well, thank you very much. I'm certainly very, very honored to be here with my colleagues and you people who came to listen to the peculiarities of the Mexican oil sector. I am happy to say that the Mexican oil sector is doing tremendous political and legislative efforts to become more investor-friendly, but still the path towards commercial integration is not finished. We certainly have a long path to go towards becoming an integrated country with the U.S. and Mexico. U.S. and Canada. Why do I say this is important? Because the interdependence already exists. Out of the 2.7 million barrels produced daily by Mexico, 1.3 million are consumed by the United States. On the other hand, we import 40% of our fuels from the United States and mostly from our refinery from southern Texas. So even though the interdependence exists between U.S., Mexico, and Canada, we still have a long path to become an integrated commercial oil and gas market. Whoops. Okay. Let me explain why this is so. The will of the Mexican people as of 1938 was to have a constitution that establishes Pemex as the only state-controlled company. This has tremendous implications for the Mexican oil and gas sector. Why this is so? Because private investment is, although existing, it is very limited. It is limited throughout the value chain. It is limited from exploration and production of oil and gas throughout the value chain onto the marketing of fuels to the final consumer. So let me start with exploration and production. As of 1938, when the private companies were expropriated, we only had a limited array of service contracts that could be performed in Mexico. This provision changed in 1956 through a legislative and constitutional amendment, whereas only pure services contracts were allowed. This means that the payment mechanism in the contract cannot be production-based, cannot be a cash compensation based on the production, and most importantly, in Mexico, you cannot book reserves. You can perform discrete services and get paid a cash compensation. And this obviously prevents big foreign companies from participating in Mexico. The service companies are well established in Mexico. There are a number of American service companies performing in Mexico. Recently, we had a new contractual model that was issued as a result of the legislative reform in 2008. And a British company won two of the contracts, and an American company, a French company, won one of the contracts. Still, these are fee per barrel contracts with no booking of reserves allowed and cost recovery. So still there is a very limited spectrum of contracts allowed in the exploration and production company, the exploration and production activity. This has serious implications for Mexico because in 2005 we were producing 3.5 million barrels per day, and today we're producing 2.7. So this is a decrease in 25% of the production. And this is a very alarming situation, both for the United States, which is a large importer of Mexican oil, but also for the Mexican government, because our fiscal resources come from oil revenues. We have a 40% dependence on fiscal resources coming from oil revenues. And if Mexico fails to reach a restitution rate of 100% as it wishes, we might have a very strong fiscal crisis. Now, let me talk about the refining and blending industry. The refining and blending industry in Mexico is in a deep crisis. Only last year we lost $8 billion in our refining industry as a result of the inefficiency of our refineries. We've tried to reconfigure several of our refineries. The refining system in Cadereyta, which is one of the biggest, has undergone international arbitration because of the complexities of the contract. And also we have a very severe refined product theft problem, which is linked to organized delinquency in Mexico. So as a result of technical inefficiencies and of the drug-related refining theft problem, we lost $8 billion a year. So that means that the refineries could strongly benefit from private investment together with a refined product pipelines and the storage facilities, which we lack immensely. We have a very strong underutilization of the current infrastructure. Now, the storage, distribution, and marketing of fuels is open to the private sector at the final link of the value chain, but only through franchise agreements. You cannot own the refined products until they are marketed in the final link of the value chain. That has caused a big problem regarding the competitive nature of the retail market of fuels, because Pemex execute very limited contracts with the final retailers. Now, where's the area of opportunity? As you see, Pemex has an overriding presence through the value chain, and now the Mexican government is trying to implement a very ambitious, very aggressive natural gas expansion plan. Why is this so? Because although we have great potential, especially the American Energy Association issued a report in which it concluded Mexico has a potential of 641 trillion cubic feet of shale gas. We are net importers, and currently we're importing 26% of our natural gas. The current demand for natural gas is growing at 2.6 per year, whereas Mexican can only supply 5% a year. So this leaves us with a need of constantly importing natural gas from the United States, while our potential is enormous. This is also added to the fact that we're in dire need to expand downstream capacity, meaning pipelines, storage facilities, and also fuel management and marketing of natural gas. Mexico needs $8 billion investment in natural gas transportation system. This is humongous. We're talking about increasing the natural pipe gas system from 12,000 kilometers to 15,000 kilometers to solve our pipeline capacity shortage. Most major pipelines in Mexico have only 10% capacity to transport natural gas in Mexico, which could leave our electricity system also at a very vulnerable stage. 30% of Mexico's electric plants are run with natural gas, our natural gas flare plants, and we have very, very limited pipeline capacity. So my call to the U.S. and Mexico and Canada is to knock on the Secretary of Energy's door and to say that you're interested in building natural gas pipelines, to demand Pemex and the Secretary of Energy to allow the entrance of new investment in natural gas transportation system. And this also goes for also improving the contractual measures for natural gas exploitation and production. It has been proven that the multiple services contracts, once executed in the zone of Tamaulipas, have had very small commercial value. The big companies did not enter into these contracts. We're seeing that Repsol, one of the big companies who has title to one of those contracts, is trying to renegotiate or leave the natural gas block it has in Tamaulipas, and the same applies to Petrobras. Petrobras has been a long-standing operator in Mexico, natural gas, but it has insisted on the lack of the commerciality of the multiple service contracts. So there has to be strong dialogue from the United States and Mexico to push Mexico, to encourage Mexico into more flexible, commercially based contracts. A fee per barrel with cost recovery, with no booking of reserves, and no payment in production, and no payment with cash compensation based on production is simply not commercial. I mean, the companies will simply go to other places in the world if Mexico does not produce and enact commercially attractive contracts. And also, one of the advantages Mexico has is that the national company is supposed to abide by the policy of the Secretary of Energy, but somehow the Secretary of Energy has failed to push Pemex into more competitive conduct. So we have to enact in Mexico a strong command and control policy so that Pemex, in the areas that are already open, meaning import, export, construction of pipelines, construction of natural gas storage facilities, to make Pemex more friendly, more investor-friendly, and more prone to competition. As I mentioned in the beginning, the challenges are enormous for Mexico. There are large number of Congress people who have pushed towards having Mexico a more investor-friendly country. Apparently, some political forces have been resilient, have been resisting the political and regulatory change, but I am hopeful that in the next few years we'll have a more investor and commercially integrated country with the U.S. and Canada. Thank you very much.